Welcome to the Stylist Suite. Today we are going to get close and personal with syndicated cartoonist Keith Knight and hear about his newest series on Hulu, Woke, and how he connects with
I
fashion.
used to just sit there and watch all these older folks in my family. Just they all dressed really cool, but they also spun all these great stories of he had the best stories because he tried to get into Mass College of Art and he couldn't get in because of his race. And this is my great uncle, so my grandmother's age, and so he just took some money and went to Paris. He's just like, okay, I'm just gonna go to Paris and paint. And he just got caught up in the scene there, and he ended up. He said he stayed in this hotel, and he said there were all these beautiful women there. He was just fascinated by all the beautiful women. It turned out that they were all prostitutes, and then he ended up getting stabbed in a bar because these two guys got into a fight next to him. And then someone tried to stab the other guy and missed him and stabbed my uncle.
Oh,
So
wow.
he ended up coming back like 6 months later with no money. It's just a mess. But he loved it. Like the way he spoke about it was just starry-eyed. And so I just loved his style and just so I don't know. I remember someone just calling me a gentleman cartoonist, and so I just sort of leaned into that role of dressing dressing a little bit better than most cartoonists, and just
Exactly.
yeah, it's a way to stand out. I remember too, like one of my publishers before they were my publishers, he said, you know what, Keith? He goes, you really at these cons, you're always dressed up. You're always like looking really good. And he
Yes,
says, you're selling your stuff right. You're selling a brand. You're not just selling comics. You're selling a brand. So,
that's right. That's right. Because I'll tell you when Geraldine and I we were talking about you, she's like, I'm watching those cartoons. She's like, we were like, oh, skill for fashion because you just look always so well put together. I mean, it doesn't matter if you look like a sweatshop or something. That's your own style too, right? But you always look so fashionable and well put together, and you just never look rough. And in
well,
fashion, that's what
yeah.
makes you style. Yeah.
Well, I would say like 4 or 5 months into COVID, I look a little rougher than usual. So I appreciate that. But yeah, it was weird when the fashion people sort of were trying to lock down the character style of the show, and they had all these different models and fashion stuff up there, and then they had pictures of me up there.
Okay.
It was really funny. I was like, oh wow, like okay, yeah, I could see why, but I see the fashion there. It was pretty cool.
Keith, it's interesting that you say that too, because the character that plays your life, what is his name again? I just want to make sure I pronounce.
Lamorne Morris. Lamorne
Yes,
Morris.
yes. Oh, yeah. I watched him on. There was another show. Well, he's on a lot of stuff. So I
Yeah,
was.
he was
Mhm.
on New Girl. He was on the show New Girl, but more recently, he was in something called Game Night. But then the latest, it was Bloodshot, a movie called Bloodshot.
Okay. Yes. And I kid you not. Now I know you. You're my cousin. I followed you for years. I felt like I was seeing him and you and him. You know what I mean? It's like I was like, that's not Keith. That's not Keith. But he, I did. I think he did a really good job in impersonating you.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it was a subtle thing, but apparently when I get ideas in the writer's room, I'll stand up and I'll start talking with my hands. I'll start going like that. And he really did a really good job at capturing that. And I remember when my wife came to the set, my whole family, um, they came to visit out in Vancouver, and just he came over in costume right before they started to shoot, and she was like, "Yeah, that was really weird." She thought it was a really weird moment for her.
Yeah, exactly. I understand how she feels about that. Because the whole time when I'm looking, like, again, and that's not Keith. Okay. Yeah, he did a really great job doing that. So I was going to ask you, so when you do get your fashionable styles together, like, have you been on any red carpets yet?
Well, that's the tragedy of all this, right? Like it's, you know, in some ways it's cool because everyone's stuck at home, so they have to watch TV. But like
Yeah.
we haven't had the opportunity to go on, you know, everything has been done through Zoom. So
Yeah.
every festival that we're supposed to be at is through Zoom. Every interview that we've had to do is through Zoom. I would have loved to have a premiere in Los Angeles. In fact, I wanted to have like live events in San Francisco, obviously, because it's supposed to be based in San Francisco. I wanted to have a live event here in Chapel Hill, in Los Angeles, and in Boston. But yeah, unfortunately, it
Right.
hasn't been the case. But I hope that we'll be able to do it at some point, just a
Okay.
delayed celebration.
All right. I thought so. So if you are to, will you style yourself or will you hire a stylist to do that for you?
I wish I could hire a stylist. I wish, but um, you know, if I
So you're just
I
going to keep
wouldn't.
coordinating yourself? You're going to keep
Yeah,
putting,
yeah. I would love for some. Actually, that's funny that you say that because I went into a store in Los Angeles. Because here's the thing, in like none of the clothes that I get are here in North Carolina. Like they don't make it here. So so when I was in Los Angeles for the writers' room, I like bought all these clothes there. And then when I was in Vancouver, uh, I bought all these clothes there because there's not really a whole lot here in North Carolina. So
you even bought things for a rainy day, huh?
no, just a lot of white T-shirts. That's all. But um, but I actually met this dude in one of the stores, and I was just like, man, this store is really cool. And he's like, hey man, like blah blah blah. You know, I dress people. I said, I'm in town. I'm writing the show. And he's like, oh, you know, I dress people. And I was like, oh man, like, you know, listen, if the show, if it ends up like getting nominated for an Emmy or something, I want you to dress me. So, you know, I hope he remembers that. I hope, you know,
Everyone is
we're
watching
lucky
you
enough
now.
to, yeah.
He
So,
probably remembers.
but I just hope that we're just not. I heard the Emmys were really cool though. I heard that for what it's worth, like it was one of the best Emmys. Like it seemed really weird because I guess they had people in almost space outfits, like to be, and they were standing outside your door with an Emmy just in case you won. And if you lost, they just wave to you and walk off with
Wait,
the Emmy.
okay, see, because I know they were doing the social distancing part, and I was too busy following some of the actresses that said they couldn't show, so I didn't really get to see all the outfits and things yet. So they had spacesuits on, huh? Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
yeah, the people handling that, you know, because you know they
Oh
wanted to be
yeah,
germ free, so
right,
they were
right.
these weird outfits outside your door, and they looked like aliens. It's just like
Those
here's your
those
Emmy.
hazmat suits. So guess that's
Yeah,
fashion too, right?
yeah,
Yeah. All right. So let's see. I want to ask you a question that the actors that played your characters relating to fashion style, because I always say everything that we do is related to some type of fashion, whether it's how our websites look fancy or even your cartoons or what you put clothing you put them in. I'm sure you think about what they're going to wear. And
yeah.
so your characters that played like the trash can or the liquor bottles, was that part of fashion, right? How did you, because really that was a voice or a character that you actually dressed. So can you tell me about how you did all that?
Yeah, it was interesting. You know, it just we took I did a lot of sketches of like liquor bottles, 40-ounce bottles and trash cans and markers, and just try to figure out like how we could get the face on it, and what would it look like had they had come to life, and the design of the bottles or the design of whatever had to sort of fit that. So, I remember we couldn't use Sharpie as a pen. So someone came up with the name Bold Mark. And that bold mark, the B would be like sunglasses, and the O would be the mouth. And so that's how I first drew it. So we figured the eyes would be about there, and the O, but it's just interesting how all that stuff sort of comes about. But
Yeah.
it really was Stupid Buddy did an amazing job taking that animation, and there's one part in I think episode 4 or 5 where the T-shirt, the word black turns into a face, and I mean,
That was so cool.
yeah, I sat there and it was my design, and I just I took the B, and I made it all fit, so it was this cool face, but like they just made the magic of sort of that, transition. And I remember someone writing online, he's like, don't watch this stoned, don't watch this stoned. That was funny.
It was amazing artistry. I mean, you know what? I want to ask you. I don't want to jump around because I want to make sure I ask all my fashion questions instead of asking about when is it going to be season 2, right?
We hope so. We hope so.
I think it is, Keith, because so many people are talking about it. I even saw ratings. I mean, 5 stars all over the place. I mean, I didn't see anything that wasn't, to me as a viewer, that's not promising for a season 2. Especially, I mean, hey, we need that. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any advice I'd give to people, if you want to see a season 2, just watch it all the way to the end. I mean, one, because Lamorne's performance is so amazing, especially in the later episodes. But 2, Hulu looks at whether you finish it, complete the whole season. So, everyone needs to complete the whole season. And if you watch it again, you'll see a lot more subtle stuff. We did a lot of interesting stuff, and I know some people have caught it, but, just one example is there's a part in, I think, episode 2, where Lamorne is sitting in front of, there's a thing behind him that says cartooning classes, and his head sits in front of the art in cartooning, A-R-T, and then it reads cooning asses.
Oh,
So
see?
it's a very, there's a lot of subtle stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, because
Yeah.
I know, because as I said, I binged it, I watched it. Now, I did not notice that part. So
Yeah, there's a lot of subtle stuff like that. So
that's
it's fun.
amazing. Okay. So I have to ask you this because, I mean, who doesn't? And not everyone deserves it. But are you going to start a T-shirt line or a clothing line? Where do you see your brand? Because you mentioned branding, and which you have done that well. But what about other products?
That's something that I've started to talk about, and there's a couple of things I would love to design my own sneaker line, my own sneaker. I'm from Malden, Massachusetts, which is where Converse All-Stars were invented, and I've always wanted to design a shoe. And a woke shoe would be really interesting, and I love the colors in the promotional stuff that Hulu did. So that's something to think about. And also, I would love to do a T-shirt line with some of the things. People have been asking, are there Black people for rent T-shirts? And we all have them. We took them from the set.
Okay.
Someone took all the socks and the wristbands too. I didn't take them. I wish I did, but. Also, we have these toast and butter hats, and my brother-in-law was wearing a toast and butter hat. And the other day, some guy was like, is that toasted butter? Like, where'd you get that? And so that was really cool. That was fun.
Keith, yeah, I see this whole museum of your things. Like those are now like collector's items. Okay, I mean, this is something great going on here with your branding and your cartoons. Yes. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say that I like. There was like this little. I couldn't. I was getting all these orders. You know, I've had to raise all my prices on my website. This is. I mean, this is a very nice thing to happen, but things just started, like people are ordering all this stuff, and somewhere on my site is like this old, like really old thing where you could order like sketch pages from me for like $10 or something insane like that. And I saw only a few people have figured it out, but I was seeing people like ordering, and I was like, wait a second, where is this? I couldn't even find it on my site myself, so I had to ask one of them, could you send me the link to, and I took it down immediately. I took it down. So, but I'm going to honor all the people that, there's $10, $20, and $50, and people that ordered those, but no more. Like everything else is going to be way too expensive.
Okay, so what is the name of your website?
It's kchronicles.com, KCHRONICLES.com.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. So, so I want to ask you this though. So, in case of season 2 just comes up like poof, you ready?
Oh, yeah, we're more than ready. There are some, I mean, we shot the first season before the summer blew up, you know, and before the protests and everything. And so we want to explore what a post George Floyd world like, and you know, there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. There's a lot of people just like, I think to some people, posting Black Lives Matter is a fashionable thing. And so I really want to rip everybody who thinks it's just a, you know, this thing to say right now. Like, I want to see real fundamental changes. And, you know, with Breonna Taylor's judgment today, I don't think there's any much change happening. So it's
something about your cartoon that I really like what you've done, and the reason why I had mentioned the intellectual side of it earlier, because sometimes things get so intellectual, even though like the millennials are so smart, like the generations that are coming up, like, you know, they're smart with the computers and things like that, but sometimes they don't seem really connected with things that the older generation are connected with. And your woke cartoon series really connects everyone. Because like I said, I've talked to young people who've heard about it. I mean, like, well, 12-year-olds nowadays are watching everything, but I'm just saying I did some homework on who's watching. The 12-year-olds are watching, the middle, the older, so you're reaching everyone. And when we want to get an important message out, that's important.
Yeah, I think there's something in it for everyone. I would say, you know, for I don't think the real young kids should do it. Wait till I put out maybe a cartoon or something like that. But yeah, I just feel like there's something in it for everyone. The biggest and most important thing for me was that it was funny, because, you know, a lot of dramedies tend to emphasize the drama and not so much the comedy. So it was really important for me, even though there's, you know, there's a lot of drama in it, but I wanted to make people laugh. And that's, for me, that gets the message across for me a lot better. So it was important for me to make people laugh. And I think we did a good job of it.
Yes, you did, Keith. And I also want to mention about your sneaker line. Now, the Stylists Suite, we do media relations. So if you need any assistance in navigating on who to get to inside of Converse, we are here to help you with that. So don't hesitate on that idea if you need some support.
Yeah, well, you know, Converse is owned by Nike now, unfortunately. I shouldn't say that, because now I have to go to Nike to do Converse stuff. But Yeah, I'm gonna approach them. Well, I'm gonna approach them. I've been shouting at them all the time, saying I'm from Malden, blah 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 blah. But I haven't done it since the show was dropped because I think maybe they just thought I was some crazy. like, just
Timing is
going,
everything.
yeah, yeah. And so now they might look at it and go, oh, that's the guy that
That's
has the
right.
show.
Keith, you got this. You got this. All right. So is there anything that you'd like to add before we say goodbye and all your fans start watching your show for the third time?
Well, I would say, yeah, watch till the end, but also if you're not registered to vote, please register to vote and you're going to be, they're going to try to confuse you with everything that's going on, whether you should, do mail-in voting, absentee voting, which is the same thing. And the purpose is to confuse you and to get you frustrated and so you just give up and not vote or miss the deadline. Just get out there and vote because we're going down a really, really ugly road. So I'd like to be able to make a season 2 in a world that, I'd also like to be able to turn on Twitter or the news and not want to vomit. So that would be great.
Understandable. Keith, thank you so much for sharing that message and sharing your brand and being here tonight with us. We really appreciate you. And hopefully we'll be in touch again soon and hear about what's going on with season 2.
Thank you. Thank you very much.